All right, so we are back, and another day in the world of MMA and another controversy, especially when two words are attached to it. The middleweight champion of the world, Sean Strickland. There is not another person on the planet like him, and as of yesterday, he has gone absolutely viral for his interactions during media day of UFC 297 going down this Saturday. I'm going to be live on stream watching this entire card, and it just got a little more interesting because Sean Strickland was asked a question and he answered it. It's the only thing anyone wants to talk about: identity and actual politics in sports. Everyone says they don't want it in sports. No one wants to talk about it, yet it's the most talked about thing everywhere. Every time it's brought up, it goes viral, whether you're on one side or another, and yesterday's media day proved that once again. Let's just not delay any further because this is fascinating. Sean Strickland, essentially on the world stage, whether you, I, or anyone likes it or not, being absolutely unfiltered. What do I mean? The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so let's take a look. Like I said, Sean Strickland at UFC 297 Media Day. By the way, the champion of the middleweight division, someone that represents the UFC, holds their belt, but he gets asked a question here, and the avalanche starts from there.
We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another, I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse...
Are you, let me know, are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking, this is the part of, are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh, man. Well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau.
Woo! Yeah, we are talking politics, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, goodness. Right away, this becomes combative. And also, let's be honest about something here. While the question is fair to ask because these are Sean's previous statements, he's kind of holding his feet to the fire on those. Let's not act like this was not some leading questions or questions that the reporter knew he was going to get this kind of answer out of. This wasn't a just run-of-the-mill, hey, what are your thoughts on this type of deal. This was specifically targeted at Sean for the words he said in the past, had nothing to do with his upcoming fight, which again is fine. You don't have to exclusively ask about the fight, but the reporter knew exactly what he was doing asking that question and probably knew the response he was going to get. And I'm okay with that. Again, fair play, but let's not act like this was just I'm just asking the questions guy. No. This was clear intent as to what the question was, why it was asked, and what his response was probably going to be. In my opinion, that question was asked to prove a point. And depending on how you look at it, it either proved that point exactly or potentially backfired on the reporter and everybody that thought Sean was going to in some way walk back what he's previously said. Now listen, me personally, I don't agree with Sean's views here. Anybody that's able to raise a child and teach them the values of life, strong person. Gay, straight, doesn't matter. Can you be a good influence on your child? Mold them into a person that has a good influence on their community, on their friends, on their family, in their world, a positive impact. That's what really matters. But politics are not something I super like talking about, but we're already here. So yes, there's going to be a lot of people, like I said, that don't share the same opinion that Sean does. There will be people, and a lot of them. I mean, dude, I'm looking at this tweet. It's generated 45. This is Happy Punch's version of the tweet. It's generated 3.3 million views, 45K likes. Sean put this tweet up on his own Twitter. It did 10 million views and 81K likes. The original tweet did 88K likes, 5.9 million views, 18K likes, 4.8 million views. This has gotten more eyes than I think any other media day in recent memory. This is huge. This is going everywhere. It's wild to see, man. You will never get anything like this in any other professional sport ever. And honestly, I'm surprised that it's gotten to this point, even with the UFC, because of who they're in business with and who their owners are and Endeavor. But the big reason, in my opinion, he's able to say this and they can't really do shit to him, which they probably at least would do. Maybe, I don't know, move him down the card or whatever they could do to probably stifle his career for saying stuff like this. They can't do because of this big gold shiny belt. He's the fucking champion of your division. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, but I don't think, again, that the general audience even knew who Sean Strickland was and how true to himself he'll continue to be and double and triple down. This is insane, man. It's fascinating, but it's insane.
The fact that you have no fucking backbone And has he shut down your country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go yourself. Move the on, man.
Answer the question, but I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said last October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what and will know what they stand for. Are you
this guy's like, nah, this Canadian's not that Canadian.
Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light.
Oh no!
10 years ago, to be trans was a mental illness, and now all of a sudden, people like you have weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your bullshit you're peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the enemy. You want to look at the enemy to our world? It's that mother right there.
Okay, so Sean says, listen, you want to get dirty? Let's go roll in the fucking mud. He essentially doubles down on what he said. And listen, again, I am not in any way condoning or advocating for either side of this, but Sean has an opinion on a specific group of people and the people that share the beliefs of those same people. And here he sticks by it in the most Sean Strickland way possible, which is to point the finger at the reporter, which I think is a little out of line, and say, that guy's what's wrong with the world. It's like both guys are pointing at each other and saying, no, you're bad. You're the bad one, which is just an identity politics ping pong game that we're seeing go back and forth here. This is the most charged up you could get anyone right now in the world is by talking about two things, the LGBTQ community and politics. And both of them are at the forefront of this back and forth. What just happened with Sean Strickland has blown up the sports world. And again, it's dual-sided, and people are taking a hard line stance here. This literally is the definition of crossing that line, because now everyone's involved. Now Sean Strickland is not just the UFC's best kept secret. So here is how he's getting reaction from sports shows all over the world today. Here's the Dan Le Batard show in Miami.
It's bullshit, and we can't ignore it, and we should. If there isn't gonna be a punitive measure, let's move on. Move the f*** on.
But there can't be a punitive measure, Mike, if the person in charge doesn't feel anything in the way of pressure. Like, there has to be the outrage and the reaction to it. Now, I understand that the reaction these days to the outrage is to simply say, you're too sensitive. You want to cancel me. This isn't freedom, you being outraged by every little thing. But this kind of speech is not a little thing.
He's wearing a T-shirt that says, women go back in the kitchen. Well, like, what are we doing?
I'm sorry. I mean, that one in its own right it's a joke. That again, Sean is known for making. These people are just now being introduced to Sean Strickland. And not that their reading of the situation is wrong in any way. I respect the hell out of Dan Le Batard and his show, but this right here shows you that they've never seen anything like this. And to be fair, that's probably a good thing. You don't want to have this type of thing happening all of the time. Everything being so highly socialized and politicized. But like I said, it's fascinating.
That pay-per-view is on ESPN+. That is on ESPN+. And I know Disney is an inclusive company. I worked for it. You say nothing? Are you a chicken shit?
Ooh.
That you allow this with impunity regularly, but it's never been this vile. The guy's wearing a T-shirt that says, women belong in the kitchen, a gun in every hand. Disney's a family company. Hell, Disney's a company. Take family out of it. This is revolting. You have that guy's last name on a pay-per-view. At the very least, condemn it.
Now, you heard there the Dan Le Batard show and the people over there call on Disney to do something about this. Make a statement, make an example. And my question is, what can Disney actually do? They could sever ties with the UFC. They could pull the pay-per-view, I guess. That would be the only thing, but I don't even know if that's something they're willing to do. They can't tell Dana to kick him off the card and keep the pay-per-view. They can't take the belt from him. He's, like I said, in the most unique position possible. And I know these comments from Sean are inflammatory. They are going to spark a rise out of everybody. You're seeing it. It's waged war on sports media today. So let's get to my opinion on this. Number one, should Sean have said any of that stuff? He was asked a question and he answered truthfully. I don't agree with his stance on certain things at all. If he's telling the truth and this is how he feels, when he's asked a question about how he feels, what his stances are, I don't know what else he's supposed to do in that moment. So I don't have a problem with the reporter asking it, but I also don't have a problem with Sean answering. Now, if you don't like his views or the way he answers that I don't know what I can tell you other than this is the freedom of speech 100% on display. Again, I don't like it. I don't think it should be involved in our fight sports. I don't like when any of our sports get politicized like this. I'm not a big fan of it at all. I think that this is once again an example of the fight business. HBO didn't stop doing business with Mike Tyson because he said he was going to fuck someone until he loved them at a press conference, or that he wanted to eat someone's children, or the many times that someone has said they want to kill someone, bury them, stab them, shoot them. Then no, this isn't, in my opinion, cause for taking the belt off Strickland or putting him down on the card or taking the pay-per-view off air to make a statement. So I just want to put this point in here as well. Not that it matters and not that this is an indication of what should happen at these type of media days, because the general understanding of media days is that reporters ask questions, fighters answer reporters. They write stories and columns and news based on those answers, and they go into the fights. But what happens when that is flipped? Because reporters are very used to asking fighters questions, things that obviously Sean has been public about and it's fair game, but Sean flips the script in this same presser, in this same media day on one of the reporters talking about Canada and their COVID response and things like that. I just want you to listen to how things can change when the roles are reversed.
Thanks.
Sean, Neil Davidson from the Canadian Press. Welcome to Canada.
Oh, congratulations! Yeah, fucking the Canadian Press, man. Were you a COVID bank account stealer too? Were you on board with that?
No.
Are you left wing or right wing? Were you a Trudeau? We got one of the commies with the press. We got to know where this man stands. Were you non-biased?
I think I'll ask the questions here.
Oh, he thinks he'll ask. Oh, we know. Maybe I should just pass on this motherfucker. He's gonna go back. He's gonna go back and give my bank account information to Trudeau.
So again, not that this reporter has to answer any of Sean's questions. It's not his job. He's not there to do that. He's not being put on trial. But you do see a little bit of the difference when the script is flipped a bit, right? You can ask these questions to a fighter, and again, they were perfectly fine questions to ask Sean. And again, the response that Sean gave is not one that people like, but it's the window that you look through when you see Sean turn the gun back on the reporters and say, well, why don't you tell me about what you personally believe? Not that they've been public about it and that they should have to be, but you see in those moments where the differences lie between the two people. Like I said, it's pretty fascinating. That's all I'll say about that. But you guys let me know, man. I don't even think it's a question at this point, but did Sean Strickland cross the line? I think the answer is clearly yes. But also, where does this lead us? Where is this going? How is this going to be handled or not handled? I didn't even think about this, but how it will affect his fight on Saturday. All this attention, all this noise. Dricus du Plessis is a monster on the other side. Honestly, I think Dricus is probably going to beat him, and maybe that quells all of this, but what if he doesn't? And what if Sean just keeps getting louder? Like I said, Sean Strickland is understood by nobody but himself, quite frankly. And I don't really know what happened. But this Saturday, I'll be live for UFC 297, and things just got a lot more interesting. So, guess we'll find out.